Hi guys, it's Dakota. Hope everybody's doing well. So today we are on part 5 of our Element Ritual series. Today we're going to be talking about spirit. Before we go there, I want to clarify something. I want to make sure that I am not misleading anybody. So let me just clarify. First of all, if you're interested in this series and you kind of want to know what it's all about, you really might want to check out the first one, which is the Air, Part 1, Air, Element Ritual Series, Part 1, and go through until you catch up with us. Because there's a lot of explanations in there that has gotten us to this point, but I think there's still some confusion, and so I just want to clear that up real quick, okay? This series is not about spell work. We are not doing spells for the elements. We are using candles for each of the elements because it's going to come together next week when I show you. Now I am not, and I say show you, I am not performing any ritual. There's not going to be a ritual. I'm going to go through the process of kind of what I did, including some new things that I didn't do. So that, throw some stuff out there for you so that you can either say, oh, I love that, or oh, I hate that, and then come up with your own ideas. But I want to just be perfectly clear that this is not, I'm not doing a spell. So if you were wondering why maybe I used a candle for the element of water, it's because blue corresponds with the element of water, and we're going to be using that in ritual. Now, here's the thing with candle. Are we going to be having, the candles lit? Yeah. But it's not, it's magic in the sense that it's going to be magical and that energy. So it is magic, but it's not a spell. It's not a spell. The candle itself, and I explain this in the videos, but let me just real quick. The candle itself can be considered the element of earth. It doesn't matter what color it is. And here's why. Because the candle itself is tangible. You can hold it. It's solid. It is solid. In order, and I know this part from experience, I make candles for my store. I order wax from a distributor. When the wax comes, it's in a big thing and it's solid. It's a big chunk of wax. It's heavy and it's solid. Earth. The only way that it liquefies is when I heat it with fire. I heat the wax and the wax melts and it becomes liquid. The only way the liquid becomes a candle is after I pour it into its vessel, because you have to have something to hold the wax. If you don't, the wax goes all over the table. The same as if you spill your milk, it goes all over the table. It has to have a vessel to hold the liquid. So now I make these little tea light candles. I also make votives. And so this little tin then is my vessel. I take my wax, which was solid when it came in, and I heat it with fire, and it becomes liquefied. I pour the liquid into my vessel, which could be considered water, because we think of our chalice as the womb of the goddess. Some of us don't. So the vessel, I pour the liquid wax into the vessel. It hardens, therefore earth. The wick, once I light it, you see the wick? Once I light it, element of fire. and the smoke element of air. So in a candle, technically, you have all of the elements. All of the elements. Now, that's not to say that I use a candle for every single spell that I do, because I don't. Could I? Sure. Why not? You could use any of the elements for any of your spells. You have to know how to manipulate that energy. You have to know how to say the words to get the powers that be to understand what it is that you want and that you're trying to do, and why you're using this element. Not because, oh, I didn't have any candles, so I had to use water because she said it was okay. I did say it was okay, but you have to know how to use it in that way. All right, so this series is not about spells. We're not doing spells. We are going to be using candles for the end result when we get to it next week. It's not going to be a spell. What it's going to be is this introduction of ourselves to the elements. Now, I did mention, I believe it was in the first one, that this is something that I did probably 15-20 years ago, and I did say that I'm pretty sure I found it in Raymond Buckland's Blue Book. I apologize, I just have not. From the time I leave the witch cottage and go into the house, my mind is like somewhere else, and I'm already busy in my head doing something else, and I keep forgetting to look in the book to see if that's the exact book that I got it from. But anyway, it is a ritual, and it is a ritual to introduce yourself to each of the elements independently and individually. And then at the same time, I asked the elements, after I introduce myself, I explain what it is that I'm looking for when I call the elements forward. Now, if you say, well, I don't work with the elements like that, I don't call the elements, well then, and that's fine, you don't have to. If that's your belief, you certainly don't have to. But then you really do have to sit down and ask yourself, well then why would you work with the element of fire? If you're not working with the element, if you're not calling the element of fire, then why work with fire? If you're not, you know, if you're not working with, if you're not going to call the powers of water, which are healing, into your bowl or your chalice for a healing, then why are you using water? I mean, this is what I'm talking about. I'm trying to get you to understand that it's really super important to understand each of the elements independently. I talked about this in every video, what their strengths are and what their weaknesses are. What are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? And what are your expectations? Okay, so that's where we're going. So there again, this is not spell work. This is going to be, we are leading up to a ritual in which I will give you some information on how you can introduce yourself to the elements individually, and it's really quite powerful. Like I said, I did it about 15-20 years ago, and you know, I mean, I've been practicing for, I'm sorry, I added it up, I keep saying over 30 years. I'm going to say it again, well over 30 years, closer to the 4 number. But I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have formal training. I didn't have access to mentors other than books, which was awesome. Thank gosh for the books, you know. And so to learn from a book is very different than to learn from a mentor. Someone who has maybe learned from a book and then had a mentor and then has practiced and experienced it, then they can share their experiences with you. And there were things that I did in that ritual, however many years ago it was, that I felt very powerful about. I thought it was a very powerful ritual, and I gained knowledge, and it was very spiritual for me. It was very intense for me when I did it. Years later, when I dedicated to a coven, something similar, more formal, in a ritual, in a group ritual coven setting, very different energy, very powerful energy. It was awesome. I loved it. But when I chose to distance myself from the coven, a couple of years later, it just came to me that now was the time to do this ritual again, because I'm no longer that person I was 15, 20 years ago, nor am I that person that I was during my formal training. However, I learned a tremendous amount of knowledge from my training, and that has continued forward to where I am now. And so what I know now, I need to embrace, and I want to expand on that. And because I no longer work with the elements or feel the same way about the elements as I did then. I have a deeper connection with them, a deeper understanding of the elements than I did then. So that's what we're doing. That's what this series is about. That's what I'm doing. That's what this series is about. You can do it if you want, and I hope that you will. At least I hope that, my hope for this is that that I make some sense, first of all, and that, that you get something from this. Whether you use it or not, that's not my business. That's not my journey. I just want to share it, and you can take it or leave it. And either way, that is awesome. That will be great. I'm going to refer to my notes. I've got my notes here because there's a few things that I just, I need the brain to be seeing it on paper. Okay. So over this series, I've been talking about the Witch's Pyramid. Now, it wasn't called the Witch's Pyramid until like more modern times, I'm going to say. Back in the 1800s, forgive me, I know I'm going to slaughter this guy's name. I have heard it pronounced several different ways. This is the one way that I hear it more often than not. So forgive me if I say it wrong. Correct me. Eliphas, I've heard those two ways. Eliphas and Eliphas Levi. Back in the 1800s, he was a French occultist, and he talked about this witch's pyramid, but it wasn't called the Witch's Pyramid, but talking about the four sides of the pyramid, and each side corresponds or represents one of the elements: earth, air, fire, and water. What it also does, and let me just go off the trail here for just a second, sorry, but I have to do this. My good friend Drew over at She Who Walks Between the World, and I'll leave her video below. She just did a video, I don't know if it was last week or the week before. She did a witchy haul, I believe it was, and she showed this item, and I forget who it was, but she got it for Yule, I think, and I went, oh, I have that. So originally I was going to just point to my little dream catcher here because it has the pentagram or pentacle, whichever you want to refer it to. It is used interchangeably. The star itself is called a pentagram. Circle is pentacle. I interchange them myself so I don't get caught up in all the, oh, you said it wrong, okay, whatever. Correct me if you want to. That's cool. But because she showed me her thing, I was like, I'm going to show you mine. Ta-da! So this is a trivet. to put like hot pans or hot plates on, whatever. And I had an antique store, I think I've mentioned this in several videos, that I had an antique store for like, I don't know, 15 years, something like that. And we used to go to auctions all the time. And I got this at an auction, and when it came up with a bunch of other stuff that iron stuff came up. It's iron, it's like cast iron, and it came up with a bunch of other iron stuff that I really wasn't interested in. But then they had this. I don't even think they showed this, probably because of this. You know, they didn't want to. You know, oh gosh, we're selling, you know, devil stuff. And but I saw it, and I'm like, I'm getting that. So this is my trivet, and I do keep this on my altar, and I use this on my altar, specifically this trivet, for my grounding and to represent all 4 elements. So here we go, and I can't tell which is right way from my computer because it's kind of backwards. But the 4 points on the star represent the element: earth, fire, water. I mean, air, fire, water, and earth. That's how my directions go. You can call them however. And you know, sometimes when I'm talking about the elements, so many people just throw it out there: earth, air, fire, water. That's fine. I don't care. But then we have this 5th point, all right, and we know that each of the points represents one of the elements. Air being our breath, being the breeze, the wind, that type of thing. And then we know that fire that's the flame of the candle, that's your bonfire, that's the passion, drive, motivation, all of those things. You have water, which is healing. Water is healing. The element itself is healing, compassion, nurturing, that type of thing. Do need to have a vessel to contain it. And then we have earth, and earth is your grounding source, your stabilizer. And we see that in like stones or herbs. Some herbs, now herbs are earth, but they do correspond with certain elements. So like ginger or cinnamon, those peppers, those are going to correspond with the element of fire. But then you might have a more calming herb like maybe chamomile, and maybe that's going to be earth or water, you know, that calming, tranquil kind of herb. So yes, I wanted to show this because when I saw Drew's video, I made a comment and I go, I have one of those. So there it is. I love it. I just absolutely love it. All right. Well, so like I said, Mr. Levi, the 4 pyramids represent then the 4 elements. And then it wasn't until, he never talked about this point, it wasn't until Aleister Crowley decided that this 5th point would be considered to go. So in the Witch's Pyramid, we have to know, to will, to dare, to be silent, and then we have the top of the pyramid, or the top of the pyramid, or the top of the star, meaning to go. And that means to that divine, to send out spirit, divine consciousness. And that's what he, as I interpret it, meant. Not all witches use, or modern practitioners for that matter, use the Witch's Pyramid. And if they do, I know a couple of groups that don't refer to the point on the star at the top. So they don't use to go, which is odd because that's what we do with our magic. Now let's talk about the cone of power. If you're familiar with that, I'm not going to go into it, but you have that cone of power where maybe you're chanting in group and you chant or you sing or you drum and it gets, or you dance, and the more you do it, the more it goes, and until it just gets really wild, and then it goes, right? It just, it goes out. That cone of power. When you look at a pyramid, it's that cone of power. A witch's hat. A witch's hat. Look. See her little witch's hat? Oh, her witch's hat? Cone of power. So, yeah. Cool, huh? All right. So, that is, so spirit is that, that releasing, that divine consciousness, that place where when we send our magic, when we send that petition, when we do our spell work, it goes out to spirit. The items that I mentioned, so breath or wind or the flame of the candle or the water that's in the bowl, or the vessel that holds it, you know, those are the representations of the particular element. That is the representation of the element. The elements actually go way beyond these mundane things that, you know, that I'm talking about. So there's a lot to the elements. There's a lot to the elements. You know, we have, with the elements, you have the elementals. You have all of the correspondences, the colors, the seasons, all of the correspondences, the time of day, all of those things. I mean, the list is forever long. It just continues to go. We're not talking about that today. All right. So, all right. So what you want to do is, and one thing is, so spirit can be thought of as this power of transmutation, which is the changing of or even being changed into a different form. You know, that I'm changing this energy into a different form. This is not shape-shifting. This is just, you know, I'm changing the energy from, you know, from fear to protection, or from heartache to healing, or whatever. It's changing, it's transmutation. So it's changing it into another form. So that's what transmutation is about. It's that higher vibration spirit. It's that higher vibration. It's the highest vibration. So you really need to keep an open mind. You need to let go when you are doing any of your spell work, or you're doing ritual, or during this introduction that we're going to be doing. You have to let go of your fears and of your doubts, and you have to visualize write it out. You should be doing this already. We talked about that with the elements for your introduction. Write out what it is that you want to say for your introduction. You know, how do you want to present yourself to the element? And in saying that, you really do have to know yourself. So there we go. You know, when we start talking about that witch's pyramid, to know, you got to know yourself. And in fact, Eliphas, pardon me, Mr. Levi said, I got it here. He said, to be a magician, you must know your path, and you must study. And you must be fearless in that study. And don't be afraid of what it might reveal. So you have, and that is all about that to know, to will, to dare, and to be silent. You have to be willing, if you're going to do a spell or a ritual, you have to be willing to accept the consequences of what it is that you're doing. So the more you know the elements on a personal basis, on a personal level, and the more they know about you, what is it that you want from me, and you have been specific as to maybe your knowledge or just what it is that you want from them. Why are you calling Air? You don't want Air to show up and go, okay, I'm here. What do you want? Who are you? You want to know. You want to know. So it's really, really important. So, all right. So when we get to the ritual part, and I'm going to say this now, you might want to go not only to part 1, Air, but the video before that. We talk about binding work. I think is the name of the video. It's called Binding Work, because that is going to be part of what it is that I'm going to be showing you in the ritual. It's a type of binding. To go, and this is why. To go, spirit is what happens when all of the elements are present and working not just for you, but working with you, and you in return are working with them. So it is, to go is binding all of those elements together to assist you and helps you to manifest, helps manifest what it is that you're trying to achieve. I guess we can put it that way. So you want to put your soul into your work. You want to make sure that you're walking the talk, that you're not just talking the talk. And that takes time, it takes patience, it takes experience, and experimenting, and it takes dissecting. It takes not just assuming. The more you know about the elements and the more they know about you, the more willing they're going to be there to assist you, and to work with you. So for me, it's really important. Like, I'm not going to just light this candle and go, oh yeah, I heard if you light a candle, this happens. And then you light the candle and you start texting your friend, oh wow, I just lit a candle for such and such. I wonder if this will, this will be cool. Let's see what happens. No, no. What are you doing? Think about it. What are you doing? Why are you doing it? What do you know about it? What do you know about it? It's just like anything, the more you know, the more you can do. I mean, it's that simple. It's really, really simple. So, it's simple, but it's not. I mean, it's simple, but it's not. Okay, so I pulled today, to go with this, I like to have a card. I like to have a message. I read tarot, so, and, but sometimes I just pull or I will look through my cards to see what feels right with the intention that I'm doing, because there might be a subtle, some kind of message in there for it. So today I decided to pull from, I felt very drawn to Raven Grimassi. I know there's a lot of people out there that don't like him. They think he's fake, whatever, each to his own. So I pulled from The Hidden Path, and here's the thing, I know a lot of people that are fake, so there you go. All right, so what I pulled is, I pulled the Watchers. I pulled his card called the Watchers. And that's the other thing in, like if you call the quarters for a ritual or for your spell work, like you call the direction of east, element of air, you might call the watchers, or you might call the watchtowers, and you might call the elements and the elementals, and the list, like I said, the list goes on and on. And so I decided to call the watchers. And some people don't call directions at all. That's your choice. So I called this, and what this card is about is this is about awakening personal vision, your personal vision, and then understanding your place in the cosmos. Okay, I mean, understanding your personal vision. That's what I'm saying here. You know, why are you doing this? What is it that you're trying to achieve? What is the end result? And what makes you think that they're going, you know, that it's going to work for you or help you in any way if you don't even understand the element that you're working with? And when I say the word element, I'm not even talking about, you know, witchcraft and spiritual stuff. I'm just saying, why in the world would you pick up a candle and light it and think that that's all you have to do? Understand it. What is it? What is it that you're doing? So it's about awakening that personal vision and then understanding your place in the cosmos. So do you think that just by lighting a candle and it's just going to, you know, the universe or spirit or that divine, whatever you want to call it, is just going to go, oh, cool, man, she lit a candle and that's cool. Where are you in that? Where are you in that? Where is your work in that place? Where is your work? You need to pay attention to your inner voice. And, you know, this is about centering on that divine consciousness, focusing on that divine consciousness, or focusing. You don't have to like focus on divine consciousness, but when you're doing your work, you need to be focused on what it is you're doing it and why you're doing it. The same thing keeps coming up over and over. Do you see? I'm not trying to repeat myself. It just is. It just is what it is. That's just what happens. You know, so I wrote down here that material and spiritual ways need to be looked at and evaluated. A candle does not make magic so. A candle does not make magic so. There you go. All right. That's spirit. Okay, we're done with today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I kind of get excited and I kind of get rambled on. But I hope that, you know, you're either getting something or you're like, she's cuckoo, and then you don't do it. That's up to you. But I do really, truly hope that you get something out of it. And I look forward to next week's video, which will be the actual putting the candles together and doing the binding, which is something new that I found, read about, and I loved the idea. It really resonated with me. Of course, I added my own 2 cents, of course. And I'll talk a little bit about talk about that then. So that when you get ready to do the ritual, if you choose to do so, then you'll have everything that you need to have. So if you decide that you're going to do it, along with all your other things that you've been collecting, if you want to wait until the end and collect everything at the very end, whatever. Thread. Now you can use anything. This is red, looks orange. This is bright red. Looks orange to me. I'm not sure if I'm going to use red. I might use green. I don't know what color. I just grabbed this out of the basket and it happened to be red. Wonder why. Fire. But you will need something, a string, a thread, nothing real thick. Something that will, you don't want anything thick or anything real combustible. Okay? All right. So, that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed it. and I will see you guys next week. All right, take care, be safe, be well, start thinking about everything, and put it together, and yeah, see you later. Bye guys.